Blueprint thinking is about rationality, about trying to prove everything.
The basic assumption of blueprint thinking is rationality. That the only way to affect change is if you think first, act later.
They believe that from every alternative, one is the best. So when I talk about these colors in a blue audience, then they would always ask me, which is the best planet? Because they can believe that there are, planets who are equal or different thinking. They would always say, no, there must be a best one. And of course you have researched that, and which one is the best, That's typically their evaluation. Or they come to me with feedback and they say, well, why do you have 5 planets? Why not reduce them to 2 planets? Because that's more simple. That's also an interesting aspect of blueprint thinking, is to make everything as simple as possible.
So they assume that there's a linear process where you first analyze, then you plan, and then you implement the issue. And the end result is exactly what you wanted in the beginning. It's the only color that pretends that that's possible.
And they would claim themselves objective as possible. But I would say it's not very objective. This is also just a belief system. They have the conviction that you have to make it as rational as possible, and they have the conviction that you have to make it mathematical with figures and with comparing figures and always looking for what they say the best.
Blueprint, for instance, comes in 2 flavors. Maybe that's nice too. If you say you think first and you act later, then basically the thinking part, the stereotype is research or analysis or audits. A very SWOT analysis, for instance, with strategy is a very blue way to deal with strategy. The second part, the implementation, the stereotype would be project management. You take the results from the analysis, you say this is what we want to do, and then step by step you implement exactly that. So project management is a stereotype for blue, yeah.
They're perceived as in positive terms, they're perceived as result-oriented, rational, and in negative terms, they're seen as rigid and inflexible and not looking for people. They would see people as resources, as capacities, not as human beings.
They're sometimes deemed a little bit, not of this world, because the world actually doesn't necessarily fit in their rational frame that they have of the world. For instance, they have an idea that organization exists of departments that cooperate and processes that could flow nicely through them and all that kind of stuff. And reality doesn't look that way at all most of the time. There's conflicts, there's misunderstandings, there's power. And blueprint people often forget about that.